right, guys, welcome to episode 19 of Prepared, your weekly TBC breakdown with me and Zareen. I heard someone told me that I have to say our names at the start of the podcast if we ever want to win a podcast award or something like that.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know if they're trolling me, but from now on, I'm always going to say our names at the start of the podcast.
What podcast awards are we aiming for here?
I don't know. I have no idea. Really niche podcast awards.
Yeah, I have no clue.
I am Snow, and that is Zareen. And today we are going to talk about a lot of fun things, and maybe slightly not fun things as well, but they'll be very interesting things. Today we have a bunch of DST talk is making its return again, as well as Hunter autos are supposedly really broken and maybe have been hotfixed since we talked about it. But it's an interesting thing to bring up as well, is that Hunters were literally getting just free DPS sometimes. A lot of free DPS actually, and we have videos and we can go over it as well.
I love the videos. I love them.
Yeah, it's actually really broken. There was some interesting posts as well. So there was a post on the Reddit I found about the state of PvP, which a lot of them I agreed with and some of them I disagreed with, but the community did talk about it a whole bunch as well. So we'll go over the state of PvP. Some things are broken, some things I think need to be changed, and yeah, we have that big Blizzard insider leak that I think literally everyone, I think if you were involved in any WoW content creation, I think 9 out of 10 of them have made a video about it already. It's everyone's just been talking about it, reacting about it. The entire industry has just been nonstop about the Blizzard insider leak. So we're definitely going to cover that as well. And just a general talk as well as like where's WoW going. I think it's kind of like Zareen was telling me before we started, it's a kind of an adjacent topic. Where's WoW going? Is WoW going to actually die? How are things heading on the WoW front? And that's very linked to the topic. But yeah, Zareen, how you doing? I see you have power today.
I do. Funny, I actually had to turn my computer on today because apparently there was like a power surge in the middle of the night. So I had to go to my circuit breaker and like flip my switches back on. So luckily, when I looked at my phone for my alarm, it had like 8% battery, and I was like, it's hooked up to charge. And apparently my plugs just stopped working in the middle of the night. Yesterday we didn't do the podcast because I was talking with my roommate out in we were out in the kitchen, and he's pacing back and forth and we're talking and stuff like that. And then he stops and he goes, did the microwave just die? Because he's like looking at the microwave time. And I'm like, what? And it has no time on it. And he's like, what the fuck? And so he like opens it, sees if there's a light, closes it. And he's like, did we lose power? And so like we walk around, we just check everything. We're like, yeah, we lost power. So we go talk to our landlord. Our landlord's already sitting outside like, yeah, no, we have no power. And apparently the building right across the street from Riot Games caught fire. It's a building that's being built, and it was like 3 stories tall, and there were 3 workers there, and there was an electrical fire that there was a rebar, the stuff that you kind of set up for structure, got electrically charged, killed one of them, and injured the other 2 and started a fire. So they had to shut down the power on the block and wait for the rebar to be de-energized, I think was the term they used, so that they could recover the body. And I was like, holy shit. So I'm like messaging Snow. I'm like, I don't think we're going to make the podcast today. Like, holy shit. Yeah. So that was really unfortunate because it was like 20 minutes before the podcast, and I was trying to figure out what was going on. The way I figured it out was there's a fire department Twitter for Los Angeles, and they were tweeting about it. So they give like updates and all that.
Yeah, the weird thing is I also lost power for the same reason later in the day. There's literally, literally on the other side of the world here in Korea, we had a fire somewhere, and they turned off the power for a little bit. So I don't know, and it's weird that happened on the same day because I'm in the middle of Seoul. We don't lose power here. It's the middle of the city, but yeah.
That story just made this PG-13. I mean, it's the real light. It's the real world, man. It's the word that they used was electrical fatality. There's one electrical fatality, and I was thinking, I'm like, that's how I'd want to go. Like, it just sounds cool, Unfortunate that happened, but like, I'd want to be finished by Raiden, dude. An electrical fatality just sounds sick to me. See, somebody said Mortal Kombat. Like, dude, I don't know why, but when I saw that, I was like, good lord, like I would not want to be the person who has to run the Twitter and like say these things and like try to be all technical and stuff. I just couldn't do it, man. I just couldn't do it.
I mean, speaking of Mortal Kombat, did you see the movie? This is a side topic, but did you see that
I
recent
did.
movie? What did you
I
think
did.
about
I
it?
did. I thought that it actually followed some of the like the lore well from Mortal Kombat. I know Mortal Kombat has lore, surprise. Like the whole Sub-Zero Scorpion stuff. I thought that was actually really good. But Kano was by far the best part of the movie. Like the actor that played Kano, I believe he's a comedian and an improv artist. And he just kind of steals the show for me. His lines are incredibly good and well delivered. And the rest of it I thought was like kind of meh. So
Yeah. I felt it wasn't bad. Man, we've really gone into general topics this week. But yeah, I thought it wasn't bad. It felt a bit short for me. Like, in that it felt like a TV show. It felt like I was watching a TV show more than like a movie.
Yeah. You know what? You know it's a really good TV show? Invincible. Have you watched Invincible?
I haven't, actually.
It is so fucking good. Like if you're out there and you've watched like The Boys or something like that, Invincible is incredibly good. Have you watched The Boys as well?
I've watched season 1. I've been so busy I haven't gotten to watch season 2.
Okay. Basically, Invincible is like a cartoon Batman, that era version of like kind of like The Boys. It's like real life superheroes, or like what the state would be like if superheroes were real. So it's a lot more grotesque, violent, right? The realities of actually like killing somebody with superpowers and like cutting them in half and stuff like that. So it's like a really visceral, gratuitous version of that. So it's a cartoon version, but I actually highly recommend it. It's really, really good.
Nice. I'll add that to my list. More shows that I don't have the time to watch that I really want to watch.
I know, dude. It's just like my Steam library. It's like, oh, look at all these games I have that I don't play. Like,
one day. But yeah, Zyrene, have you seen these updated Hunter Sims? I think you've probably seen them for DST. The DST chart that's going around.
The one that is somebody took all of the best Sims.
Yeah,
that one.
Yeah. So I got it open for them. Yeah,
I've seen this one. I've seen this.
God, it was very interesting going to the different Discords and seeing their reactions to them. Because every Discord had a different reaction based on where their class ended up on this list.
But this is the thing, is this lines up with what I expect, except for Shamans. Shamans was the one I was surprised by. Because like I actually expect Warriors to be the best, followed by Rogues. I think I've said this before, right? Like the highest DPS increase, because it increases your resource generation for Warriors and Rogues, whereas Hunters it doesn't. So it's not just affecting your damage output, it's affecting your resource generation, which further affects your output, right? So like I expected it to be Warriors, Rogues, Hunters, and then Paladins. I was like, I expected Shamans to be next and then Paladins, because I thought Paladins, in terms of seal twisting, it becomes more difficult to do. And when you get too much attack speed, you actually have to miss abilities in between your seal twists, but it's more damage to do that, right? It's kind of like how an elemental shaman, when you get a little bit of haste, instead of doing 3 lightning bolts chain lightning, you do 4 lightning bolts chain lightning. So you delay your chain lightning by like a second and a half sometimes. But it's more DPS to do 4 than 1 when you have some haste. So it's a thing where like you skip an ability because you have more attack speed. So like I thought Retribution Paladins would be lower, and I thought Cats, of course, would be the lowest, because they're just power shifting now and just wrecking shit. Which I'm happy for the Druids, dude. Like, yeah, they actually get to fucking be a really good class now. Like Druid is a really good class to just roll as an alt, dude. Like, I actually think if you don't want to like respec all the time and you want a PvE Druid, go and play Feral. Like your DPS is good. People want you for the buff. You can tank as well, and you don't have to respec, and your damage is good. Like it's like I think Druids are good alts right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was surprised by the fact that Shamans aren't higher. Or higher than Paladin in both Sims. So that was my surprise.
The only thing is I'm not sure how good the enhancement shaman like Sims are and such, because Sims take time to get fleshed out and get better as people find the mistakes and make them better. And I don't know how long they've been they've had an enhancement shaman sim, because it's a pretty small community. That's the only thing. So it's hard to tell how accurate it is at times. But yeah, it's interesting to see that Hunters got knocked down a peg on this particular version. So for people that don't know, this is
I
basically
mean, they still do 3K
yeah.
DPS.
Yes, someone went around to each of the main class discords, got the main sim sheets and such that people were using, calculated the DST gain for each of the classes according to their own discords, and put them on a chart like this. And for people that are wondering, hey, Snow, weren't the hunter numbers way higher before? They were, but honestly, the last time we talked about it, I didn't believe them anyway. When some hunters were cherry picking a little bit of data for me and telling me like DST is a 90 DPS increase or 150 DPS increase for us, and I was looking at the number thinking I don't think that's correct. That doesn't seem right to me. There's something weird going on there. But eventually they did have an updated sim, and yeah, it's not as big of a DPS increase as it once was. But the thing to keep in mind with all of these sims is that this is just one instance. So it's good for comparison, but you always have to keep in mind that yeah, this is like we're talking about one instance in a certain fixed situation, and we're not really including uptime. Like each classes might have a different uptime as well. There is the side of hunters where they could technically have the argument, well, range, we have better uptime, so like we would gain more DPS even though it says that we don't gain as much in the sim. So there's things like that that are outside the realms of the sim data, but it is interesting to see that they're up there. And someone in chat is saying that the warrior sim has DST proccing too often actually, and that if they fix it, they'd be around rogue level, but it's still pretty high. It's still around that like almost 3% mark, even if you bring it down. So yeah, warriors and rogues, but I don't think this has changed any of like either me or Zyreen's thoughts on the subject, because we both kind of thought that yeah, it's probably best for warriors and rogues, but hunters do a lot of DPS, so like they would be up there with prio as well anyway. So
yeah,
even
here's the problem with people's perception of the item is people know it's a really good item, right? People know it's a really good item. Hunters do the most DPS, right? Like for all intents and purposes for this argument, we'll just say they do the most DPS. But it's not the largest DPS gain for that class to go from not having it to having it versus the other DPS classes, right? So the argument is, do you just give the best DPS class this item because they're the best DPS class, and you're going to be stacking them, etc., or do you give it to a class that does less damage than them, but it's a bigger gain, right? People like are on either side of that argument of you should just have your best class get stronger, or you should bring up a class that's not as strong, right? Now, obviously, I understand the strength of Fury Warriors. Literally, I think after this week, it was the Fury Warrior in my raid topped all three and got number 4 Fury Warrior in the world. That's why I'm a fucking Fury Warrior believer the entire time, is because I know that there are really good players out there. And like, I've just been on the side of it's the largest raid DPS increase to give it to a warrior and then a rogue, even though they aren't the highest DPS classes already. Now, the question here of the sim is uptime, right? Later on, because if there's a fight where warriors and rogues have to get out, then the hunters will do more damage with DST, right? Because their uptime will be higher. Yeah, that's like where you can start like picking this apart, because this is assuming 100% uptime. Something like High King Mulgar, if the fight is slow and he gets a whirlwind, warrior rogues aren't staying in, right? So the amount of damage that you get out of this item in a full fight potentially goes down if you're a melee class, and that's where you just go.
We can stay in as rogues if you want like a 30% chance that you die with evasion.
Dude, it goes through evasion like almost every time, dude. I swear to God, like it is not worth trying, dude. Like it is not. Oh, good God. I don't know, man. He's got a 100% chance to hit you, dude.
But yeah, the data is interesting because I think the only thing it changes is that hunters can no longer use the argument that that they should be like absolutely number 1 prio now. I think that this data at least bumps that argument down. I still put hunters on up there, same prio as like the warriors and the rogues as far as like getting that DST, because I don't think the DPS difference is that significant between like the 3 classes. And I think you give it to your best player. I think you give it to the player more so than just the class. But Yeah, I think that's the best way to do DST, and I mean that's the way my guild has been doing DST. Actually, we've just been more giving it to the player more so than the actual class itself.
Yep. We've kind of been doing the same thing, but it's definitely been like a drought for DSTs for us. So the longer it goes on, the worse it's going to be.
Which is, by the way, chat. Which is why I'm up for DST number 2 today. We give it to the player.
Give it to the player.
DST number 2 today. I've had the craziest loot week, by the way, Zareen. We did Kara earlier this week, and I got helmet off Prince. I got ring off Prince. I got the boots off Morose. And then the day before, I got the chest off Mag as well. And then if DST drops today, I'm up for it because we started splitting, and I'm in the split where it would be mine. So it might be the perfect loot week if we finish it with the DST number 2.
And then you can work on another road. One's done. Good.
You know, it's funny. Someone I got into a mild discussion in one of the discords the other day, and about rogues, and the guy was like, "Do you even play rogue?" And I was like, well, I mean, I have.
You fucking do you know who I am?
You know how many rogues
do you
I
fucking
have?
know who I am?
The guy does not know I have 3 rogues. I play too much rogue. It's depressing. I just enjoy looking for group all the time.
That's where the brain damage comes from. Playing too much rogue. Dude. I didn't have like I mean, I guess I haven't done Kara on my rogue. My rogues kind of have a drought. Kind of had a drought in terms of Karazhan, but I did get my Girdle of the Death Dealer and my bracers from Old Hillsbred, so I was happy about that because I don't have to do those for rogues anymore. So ever again.
I've given up on the braces. Never going back. Never going back for the braces.
So they dropped, and I was in a run with like a guildy hunter, and I actually passed on them. And then he opened trade and gave them to me, and he's like, "I'm survival, and they sim worse." So I was like, "Oh, okay." So he's using like the spy mistresses, and if you put agi in it, that's or fell. I think he's using fell leather. Yeah, he's using fell leather, and technically that's better with an agi gem in it.
Yeah, that's another interesting with gear. Well, we're on the topic of like hunter gear as well. Is that the boots, the Edgewalker boots for them, they have the very close alternative as well. I forgot. Do you know what the name is? I forgot what the name is. But they have those other boots, which are basically they just trade a bunch of mana for like 5 attack power or something like that. I think. But yeah, it comes from Chess Event, and they have these boots which are practically our hunters. One of our hunters was actually getting his Edgewalkers the other day, and then he was actually sad that he got them because he got them, and then he realized, wait, I have to spend all this money to enchant this because this enchant is really expensive, and then I do all this, and then I lose mana, and I gain this small amount of AP, and he was saying, man, I'm so poor, I don't think this is worth. I would rather not have gotten the boots.
Yeah, sometimes you get the item, and you're just like, man. It happened with my elemental shaman. I haven't gotten to my tier helm, so I haven't had like a meta gem, and so I just got the one from badges and put a gem in there, and I already got another meta gem. So when I get my tier 4 helm, I'll put it in there. So it's like you spend like 300 gold on your gems for your helm and the enchant from the vendor, and then you have to do it again if the helm drops the next week, and you're just like, I guess I got like a little bit of damage for like 1 week. Like my damage is a little bit better. That's yeah. It just
I know the feeling because of all the loot I won this week.
Gold away.
It's a good problem to have, but at the same time, I just spent like 600 gold just on enchants and updating my gems. The worst is when you need to update gems that are already BIS, but you got an item, so you need to shift the gems around now. That feels bad.
I mean, same thing I'm going to do on my shaman because I'm all gemmed yellow crit right now, but eventually you want to go spell power when you shift over a crit threshold. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, while we're on the topic of the hunters, I found this as well. I found this. Did you see this one? This is a good meme. So it's like someone posted in a Discord. Also, new DST numbers just dropped, and it shows like the warriors and the rogues above the hunters. And this one even moved the shamans up as well and put hunters at the bottom.
Oh wait, wait a second. Is this new or is this a meme?
No, this is a meme. This is a meme. They
Okay,
just
so
fudged them.
he put the shamans in. Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, they moved the hunters to the bottom, and the meme is the two buttons, and the one button is the hunter sim is accurate, give DST to melee first, or our sim is bad, hunters are highest DST prior.
Oh no.
Good times.
I mean, I guess those are your options.
But yeah, the hunter auto thing, which I've been told is fixed by the way now, but it was a big topic of discussion because for people that don't know, basically the hunter macro, there was a macro that it seemed the game got confused. The hunters would press a macro and the game would get confused and just be like, oh, your auto timing's done. Okay, let's auto attack again. And because they were spamming this macro, you would literally just get free autos. Like, you would just get literally double your autos sometimes. It's just insane. So, like, it happens with the more haste you get. At least it did happen when it was happening. So you can see every time he spams this macro, his auto just resets. It just, like, resets the auto timer. So he just randomly just keeps getting free autos out of nowhere. Like... So that was why everyone was saying Hunter's autos are broken because they literally were. And to read the explanation of why or what was happening.
Yeah, do you have any more videos of this?
This is the only one I got from the official.
I got a better one for you. Okay,
hit me with it.
Watch this one, Snow. This is when I realized it was a problem.
Okay.
Yeah, I love this guy's attack timer, by the way, with the Monkasteer on the speedometer. Yeah, so he waits for he uses the flame cap, he puts on the hawk proc, and then he props everything.
God. Yeah, so yeah, Hunter Auto is a little bit broken, guys. So what was happening according to the official Hunter Discord explanation is that below 2.0 haste, you can start to really notice it, and below 1.5 haste, it becomes really noticeable, and then the lower you go, the more and more noticeable this becomes, and You would literally get like 4 to 5 autos happening. If you go lower and lower, you would literally get 4 to 5 autos happening in one animation. It was actually insane.
Dude, I love this video so much. Like, you can just play it again while we talk, just so there's something there. But like the thing here is the guy's using Hurricane. He's using I think it's like a really fast bow, just like base speed wise. So this is like the extreme version of it, and with Hurricane, you time it. I think it's like 15 seconds to like 25 seconds or something like that in the video. When he pops everything, he goes from having he goes from having like 2k damage to having like 22k, or like he goes from like 12 to like 32. So he actually did 20k damage in 10 seconds. So he did 2k DPS with no armor debuffs on whatever he's hitting, and no AP buffs, just all attack speed. And he's using a Hurricane. So with a Hurricane bow, he was able to do 2k DPS with this, with all the attack speed. So you could actually just get like really cracked out with just anything on mobs, right? And anything on yourself. So there's people in logs doing this to like High King Mulgar and stuff like that for like 2.3k DPS. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff there.
But yeah, according to Hunter Discord, it was hot fixed yesterday. I believe it was fixed yesterday. So this is actually going. I guess the videos were enough that Blizzard really got on that one quickly.
Yeah, got a lot of attention. There's a Blizzard employee in my guild, and whenever somebody links something like this in the Discord and says like, "What the fuck?" he immediately replies with "Fun detected." That's his favorite line, dude. Is he just says "Fun detected," and we're like, "Shit, dude, this is gonna get patched." He's gonna go as soon as there's something like that in the game and it gets linked in our Discord. It's just like, nope, sets off the fucking alarm.
Did you see this Reddit post, by the way?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, so this got a bunch of traction. So this was the title was a washed up gladiator's thoughts on the current state of arenas in classic TBC PvP. And I thought some of the points really hit home, and then some of the points were like, I don't know about that one. But I guess just to go point by point, the first point is he's basically saying that arena is still good, but competitive at lower ratings, meaning that people are just getting better, which is something we've talked about already. Is that people are just better. That like he gives the example of the 1, 2, 3 arena macros, and as a rogue, you can really tell the presence of that because after a certain rating, every rogue that you encounter has the instant shadow step cheap shot arena 1, 2, 3 macro. So as soon as you open as a rogue, you get opened on by the enemy rogue because he's just gonna shadow step cheap shot you instantly. And that was definitely not a thing way back in the day. That was definitely not a thing or wasn't prevalent that much because I never used them and I was at like 2200. I never like knew about the existence of these macros at all. But yeah, at like 1500, 1600 rating, people are already like full balls to the wall with all the old school tricks that would be considered gladiator level now. So the skill rating has definitely gone up a lot. I don't know if you've done much PvP since that one time you did it, Zareen, or...
No, it just because everything is it resonates with the line that's later on where it's come try out arena. You might like it, but you need to dedicate 200 hours of BGs to avoid getting one shot first before you can really tell. That's like that's how it is right now. Is you're running around with like resilience is so important, and it's so hard to get. So yeah, you basically just get blown up. So. Yeah, you have to go get PvP gear from different places, like BG. It is a barrier right now, right? I'm actually if tier pieces drop in your raids, by the way, and nobody needs them, take them because you could turn them in next season for Gladiator Season 1 gear. So like I see it happen all the time where like Curator drops like Warlock gloves or something, and like nobody needs them. I'm just like, just take it anyway, because if you're gonna do you like who PvPs? Are any gonna PvP? And one of them was like, yeah. I'm like, just take it because you turn it in next season for your gladiator gloves. So yeah,
I mean a bunch of that stuff as well. Like you can actually even like I see people passing up on certain loots that have slots as well. Things with slots are really good as well because you can resilience gem them as well, which gives you some sort of stopgap measure. But yeah, that's actually the second point he has where, like Zyregion mentioned it, where he's got a quote, come try Arena, you might really like it, but you need 200 hours of BGs to avoid getting one shot first before you can really tell. And like he says, it's a really tough sell. And this kind of links into some other stuff we'll talk about later with like the path that WoW goes down where like tough sells like this are not good for the game. And as someone who's been trying to PvP, I really love PvP. If I had my choice, I would just PvP all day as well. But trying to PvP right now is so hard because the only options I have as a horde player who wants to PvP a lot is, well, if my arena partner isn't on, I can just go do a bunch of BGs, but it takes me like 30 minutes to an hour just to get one BG. So I just sit there. Either I fly around and I gank people in open world, just like level 65s in open world, which doesn't really get me much, and then I feel bad after I kill them once or twice because that doesn't really do anything. Yeah, like someone in chat saying I killed them at the summoning stones, and the only other alternative is I spam skirmishes, which can be fun, but at some point as well, like I'm not learning as much from skirmishes because I'm not getting that team coordination, and when I've queued into skirmish with another rogue and like 3 out of 4 people in the arena are rogues, I'm not really learning as much that without any communication. We're just doing the exact same thing over and over again. So it's been rough trying to get PvP in when I really want to PvP and my partner isn't on, and I don't have an option for that. It feels like there's an entire section of the game that I can't play because BGs just aren't a thing for Horde right now. I just never get to play them.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really hard to like get honor and stuff, and he's like asking for like a rework of the honor system. I think that I'm not sure, right? I think that obviously like the queue stuff aside, it does seem pretty unreasonable for some to obtain the gear in a timely fashion. But it just right now it's just so hard, right?
Yeah, I feel like there's been people that PvP a lot also have been noticing that there's a lot less people PvPing already. It's like early-ish still in the season. It's not that late at all. But a lot of people have pretty much just stopped PvPing as well. There's not that many teams queuing. It feels like a lot of the PvP is pretty dead, and it's like just a few of the same people PvPing, and that's about it. Because like I feel like a lot of people are just thrown in the towel and be like, well, this sucks. We have no honor, we have no resilience. See you guys in season 2. We're just not gonna worry about it now.
Yeah. Somebody said in chat, Fearblade said tokens for arena gear wasn't added until Sunwell patch on Isle of Quel'Danas. I believe they said that, like, correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm just, wrong. But I believe that they said with every release of a new season, the previous season's gear will be available via the token. And then when it becomes 2 seasons removed, that gear will be obtainable via honor. So in season 3, season 1 gear can be obtained with honor, I believe. I believe that was the system that they said they were going to do. But I could be wrong.
Yeah. I do recall something like that as well, but I'm not 100% sure. The third point this guy does bring up as well is I mean, from this point onwards is where he kind of gets into stuff where like, I kind of agree, but I kind of don't. I'm like not 100% sure like on the rest of these points. So he starts saying that the arena point system needs a rework for arenas, because it takes too long just to get that amount, and private servers have in the past increased the amount of points you got per season. But the question is, we still don't even know how long like a season's gonna go. Blizzard hasn't told us, which is another problem, is that we don't know how long the season's gonna go on. So trying to plan for it is a bit tricky when we don't know.
They're in a really weird spot right now because if they try to end the season too soon, then people are mad because they haven't even gotten enough like points to buy half a set or a full set. If it goes on too long, then people are going to be like, well, one of two things is going to happen. The PvE people are going to be like, just release SSC and TK, and they're going to be like bored or might quit. And if they release SSC and TK and they don't make it a new arena season, the arena players are going to be like, well, this is kind of fucked because now I'm playing against Storm Heralds, So yeah.
Which, by the way, side note, Warriors are already so annoying, man. Already, I'm so sick of random stuns already, and it's only been like 2 months of arena or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, the arena points, I'm not sure actually. I'm not sure whether they should be increased or not, because it doesn't feel that bad right now actually. But I'm speaking as a rogue who doesn't need much arena gear. I get my 4 pieces and I'm pretty good. I don't really need much stuff from arena gear. But for the other classes, I could see that being annoying. Like for my warlock friends and the priest friends and such who actually do wear a ton of that resilience gear and such. I could see that being a barrier. But yeah, I know a lot of people like even people that were keen as recent as like a week or 2 ago on PvP, who just don't care anymore because they tried it and then they got blown up and they said, nah, I'm not doing this. I'm not coming back until I'm more resilience.
Well, it's also interesting because the way that it works is something that I think doesn't resonate with a lot of players, because the way that you get, like, I guess right now it's like people get blown up and they want resilience, right? So in order to get resilience, you have to get blown up a whole bunch of times and like suffer through a bunch of weeks. But the other thing too is the one that gives the most points is 5s, right? 5s gives the most points by a good margin. If you're playing 2s or 3s, which some people find a lot more fun because it's a little more coordinated instead of a clusterfuck, but 5s is the one that gives you more points, even with like a lot less rating than like a 2s team. So that's the thing that I think a lot of people don't really like resonate with, is that 5s just isn't as fun for them because it's way less coordinated. It's a lot of just like run up, bloodlust. Can you blow these people up? Okay, good. And that's the thing too, is I always felt that as well. Back in the day, was I was more of like a twos player, and then threes was my secondary, and fives really wasn't like my cup of tea, despite like playing a paladin and it being very easy because you just bubble bop somebody, keep them alive the entire time, and then like it's over by the time your bubble's done. If you didn't get master spelled, so it's just like I don't know. The fucking thing is, I just don't like fives. Fives for me, it's I think it's already proven. There's a reason it doesn't exist, right? In like the current states of the game, because it's just
well, Zareen, I will tell you a
cool.
way to have fun in fives. I ran into another team that I think they were having a lot of fun in fives the other day.
Were they 5 Ellie shamans?
No. They were 4 BM hunters and an Ellie shaman.
Oh,
yeah. We zoned into the fives because it was just my PvE friends who wanted some points. So I was like, okay, let's get our fives team going. We'll get you some points at whatever rating we end up in. And we zone into the arena, and we just see all the hunter names pop up on Gladdy, and I'm like, I don't know who to open on. What do we even do now? And I think in our panic, like 3 people just instantly died in the middle of the panic. Like what do you do when you zone into an arena with 4 BM hunters?
You line of sight?
Yeah, I was like, do we just stand behind a pillar the entire game? I don't know what we do.
You kill pets, dude. Kill pets.
But yeah, fives is super messy. Well, I think the thing about fives as well is how annoying it is to get 5 people on. Like it's so hard to be competitive in fives because you need 5 really competitive people, and it's already hard to get 2 to 3 competitive people on at the same time to grind out those arena games because people have jobs and such. So you're trying to coordinate the timings for everyone. And with fives, it's so hard to get 5 super competitive people into the same thing. On top of the fact that I think most people don't have any more keys for hotkeys. I've maxed out my hotkey banks of like what I can reach and such. If I had to add arena 4 and 5 into my hotkeys, I don't think I can do that.
And like the thing too is like fives is literally just a point fucking bonanza. That's all it is, right? Because like when you go to PvP websites and look up who the top players are, you go to 2s and 3s. You never go to 5s and go, wow, look at these guys. They're so good. Oh my God. Oh, I want to be like them. No, they're just getting fucking points, bro. Like 2s and 3s are the actual ones that people consider skillful. 5s is just a clusterfuck. It's just literally roll your face on your keyboard from left to right. Sometimes right to left. And that's the game. And you just get more points than the other ones. So 5s is like more rewarding to play, but it's seen as like a way less skilled version of arena. So like I don't know, I just feel like you should get more points for playing 3s and 2s personally.
Yeah,
like I don't know why they scale it up like that.
You know what I would actually like as well, and on top of that, like I'm down with more points in 2s and 3s.
Why why are you given more points for a mode that is considered less skilled and is less coordinated anyway? Like why are you given more points for 5s than 3s? Why is that even a thing?
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess it's not a thing. That's why they took it out eventually. Yeah.
Right? Like,
yeah.
I just don't understand. It's easier to get higher rating in 2s and 3s because there are more teams. It's probably the reason. Probably, but did they know that was going to happen immediately? Maybe, because obviously there's more teams because it only takes 2 people or 3 people instead of 5. That would probably be the reason. So they're rewarding people for playing 5s because it takes more people. I don't know. That doesn't feel like something that I would want to like reward or incentivize. So
yeah, I don't know anyone that's actively trying to like get glad in 5s or something.
I know people,
you know,
because their class isn't because their class isn't good in 2s and 3s, right? Like I know a few pallies that are doing 5s.
I could see that.
Yeah, there's pallies that I know prop pallies that actually are doing 5s as holy to get their weapon and stuff like that. So yeah, paladins and shamans love 5s because it's super easy points. They're very, very good in 5s, and that's like the place that they're best. So yeah, they're trying to get gladiator in there. I know I know actually a bunch of retail glads who are playing 5s together, and they're like I don't know, they log in, they just shit on everything, and then they just get all their points. Like they already have weapons already, so like the prop paladin I'm talking about already has his gladiator weapon, and I'm like, okay, it's a different game.
So what do you think about the fourth point in this Reddit post though, the cross server arena teams? Because this was actually a thing in beta already. You could if you were on the other beta server, you could actually already group with people on the other server and then queue arenas. Do you think this would be a good change, or because it's tricky? Because for at least for me, this is like now we're getting to changes where it's scary because you're scared to make changes that take away your social feeling in the game. But I'm for PvP purposes, I'm not sure if that is good. Yeah, it's like, is this something that would turn WoW into retail? It's tricky. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure either because I'm not sure because I'm on a populated server, right? I'm on a populated server that a lot of people play on, a lot of PvPers are on. So I don't know if that should be, like, it says should be considered, not they should just do it, right? Because he said if you are a serious arena player, PvPer on a PvE server, you know what I'm talking about and why I suggest it. I mean, if you are a serious arena player / PvPer, you're not on a PvE server, or you're on one that has like arena teams. Because the first line of that contradicts almost the rest of it, right? If you're a serious arena player, you're on a server that you know the serious arena players are on, right? Like, if you're not, then you're an arena player. You're not a serious arena player. You're not doing what it takes to actually like compete, right? That's part of it right now is in order to compete, you should be on a server that is competitive. So, I mean, it's not how it was back in the day, but he says it's very hard to find teammates. Yeah, I get that. And for the people, I don't like saying tough luck, you rolled on the wrong server, because that always feels fucked. How do you do this though? Do you just make it one battle group across everything?
Yeah, I don't know. That's why it's so tricky, right? We crossed into like this weird.
How do you hand out gladiator at that point, right?
Yeah, like maybe you only do cross server for the realms that are already shared in like the bucket.
But that becomes like really specific, and I'm like,
yeah. Well, speaking as someone who plays on like a few different servers, it's very evident. Very, very evident for my Felina toon, where I can be like, okay, if I'm a good enough player, I can find like top tier, like gladiator level partners fairly easily. It's not hard at all.
Very easy.
There's so many. They're everywhere in Felina. It seems like anyone that wanted to PvP seriously rolled on Felina, basically.
Yep.
But even speaking for my other rogue, which is on Whitemane, which is still one of the most populated realms in WoW, super, super popular realm. A lot of people play on Whitemane. The PvP population is completely different. It is actually completely different because everyone that was serious about PvP rolled on Felina. And everyone that PvPs on Whitemane is this tiny little small amount of people. And they're mostly Alliance. Like most of the hardcore PvPers just happen to reroll Alliance because we had this period of time on Whitemane where people rerolled Alliance because there was a serious-ish PvP guild there. And that's the only amount of PvPers really at the top end on my server. If like I was actually talking to one of them the other day because I was like, well, my partner's gone for the week. I need to do some twos or something. And I was looking for any mage that was like 2k plus, if we could do some twos or something, and I couldn't find anything. And then I found one, and he was like, "Yeah, man, I don't know, I've already got my toon there. I'm slowly leveling it up, but yeah, I stopped leveling my horde toon because there was no one to PvP with." I was like, "Yeah, that's kind of the problem. That's the one to PvP with over here." So it's definitely very noticeable. The difference between a Felina where there's gladiator players everywhere and every other server is insanely noticeable. It's insane. It's really, really hard to get like good partners if you're not on the popular PvP realm.
Yeah, which is why like I have to like take into account that my view is very skewed at the start, right? Like, no.
Yeah.
I'm not on the average server, which you should definitely take into account when making changes like this.
Yeah, so it's an interesting one, but like both me and Zarian said, we're not sure how they would do it. Like the implementation of this would be very tricky because you'd have to be very careful about how you did this if you ever wanted to go down this route as well. And before we go to this last point, which I disagree completely with this last point. But before going to this last point, people in the chat did bring up dual spec, which I think is another thing that he didn't touch on here. Is that if you just gave people dual spec, I think you would already increase the amount of people PvPing, which would be a good thing. I think at the state of things that are now, I think a little bit of gold inflation is worth having that if it means we get more people actively playing the game and PvPing and such. Because I know there's a lot of poor people that would happily PvP more if they didn't have to respec and spend 100 gold every time.
It might also help in PvE too, because I can tell you playing retail, because you can spec all 3 specs instantly, right? And having to redo your bars and stuff only one time, it's really nice. When people want me for RBGs, I can play Ret, Prot, or Holy, right? Based on what they need. So you can fit into more teams a lot easier. And so you can basically play whatever they need. And when it's looking for like PvE and people are looking for like a tank or something, and you're like a poor little arms warrior or a fury warrior who wants to gear up, you just need a little tank set, right? You just need a little tank set that you'll get over time, and then you can just like tank instances. So it's a lot more doable with dual spec. So I think it's not a bad idea at this point.
Yeah, I hope they do it, but we'll see. They've never mentioned anything about dual spec. That's the thing. I don't think they do it just because they've never mentioned anything about adding dual spec in. But I don't know about this last point. It feels like really weird to include this last point. I don't know why this came out of a bit of like left field. He also this guy also wants rogues nerfed because there's too many rogues. So I saw this and then I was like, are we technically the most? So I went and looked at the stats. I went and actually looked at the stats. And in 3s, rogues actually aren't the most represented. Druids are actually the most represented right now. Rogues are the most represented in 2s.
What about in Europe?
But in 3s, we're actually behind Druids. Let's see. In Europe, we are still behind Druids in 3s. And 2s is the same. But yeah, in 3s, it seems Druids are actually the class that everyone wants to play. It seems that they're higher than rogues. But I don't know, like nerfing rogues. The thing about rogue is that we're not actually the strongest PvP class.
You know,
we're popular.
You know why? You know why 3s druids are higher?
Why is that?
Because in 2s, you don't necessarily need a healer. You could play double DPS or 1 healer and 1 DPS. In 3s, you always need at least 1 healer, and priests and druids are the only ones people typically consider.
That's true.
So every single 3s team, almost every single 3s team, like nobody plays triple DPS. You will always have at least 1 healer, maybe 2 if you play like a gimmick comp. Not a gimmick comp, but like a double healer comp. So 2s don't necessarily need a healer. 3s, you need a healer, and there are only really 2 competitive healers right now that people consider. So, yep. And you can see where paladins and shamans land on that list. So, yep. So that's why I think, but I definitely think rogues are the highest DPS that's represented.
Yeah, absolutely.
In 3s.
Well, the thing is, like,
by a good bit.
Rogues are super fun, and we're also not wanted in PvE right now.
So what else are you gonna do?
Yeah, what
are you gonna do with your time?
Yeah. And I mean, there's a lot of people that rogues just to PvP because we're super fun. Like if you're like a fast Twitch player who likes to hop around with Shadow Step and do a billion things, you're in the middle, find someone, then you vanish, Shadow Step, reset them. It's really fun. Rogues are really fun in PvP. So I can absolutely understand the representation. But we're not actually the most powerful. Like if I was gonna like tier list them, like rogues are definitely right near the top there, but I don't think we're stronger than like mages and warlocks right now, especially as they're getting a lot of resilience. Mages in particular, sometimes like I just don't know where the DPS comes from. It's like sometimes you're just playing just fine, and then the mage just it's like out of nowhere, like, oh, I'm dead. I'm sorry, I wasn't expecting 5 billion damage.
Yeah, my hunter partner, he's like, I don't care if it's mage rogue, just open on the mage immediately. You don't need to find the rogue. He's just like, get his ice block, just stop it from hitting me. Like, it's like, I don't care if you take damage, just like as soon as you get his ice block, because he'll just ice block the full beast within like cooldown basically, and then come out of it and just like shit on the hunter. Like I can't tell you how many times a mage has just like I've killed the other rogue in a mage rogue composition. I've killed the rogue, and then I turn around and my hunter dies, and then the mage is like it becomes like a 1v1 where he just barely kills me, or he'll just like flat out just shit on me because he still has cooldowns, and I'm like, yeah. I'm like, damn it. I used too much on this rogue.
Do you actually think they should touch any balancing stuff? Because I feel like it might mess with the game if they actually try to do any balancing stuff.
I actually don't think so. I feel like when there's bugs and stuff like that, like I think like Cloak of Shadows, right? The Cloak of Shadows lying to you about the percentage that the Nova's not breaking, bugs, stuff like that. I definitely touch those. But I don't feel like you should really introduce any balancing changes, because things will change when people have more resilience, and things will change as the arena seasons continue, and people get different access to gear and stuff like that. So, yeah, it's like rogues right now don't even have, like, half the rogues you play against don't even have the gloves that interrupt with deadly throw. So it's like, things are going to change even more.
Hey, I got that. That was the first piece of arena gear I bought, just because I never had the honor to buy the blue ones.
They're really good. So having an interrupt on your glove is basically required. So
yeah. But yeah, rogue's really fun, guys. I highly recommend you try rogue. Although it is very weird, because I've been doing a lot of skirmishes. Like I said, I've been trying to get my PvP games in just to keep shake off the rust. Mm-hmm. And it seems there's a lot of other rogues who do the same, because sometimes I queue, it'll be the middle of the night, and I'll play the same guy or get partnered with the same guy for like 2 hours, and I'll think, wait, what is this guy doing? I know what I'm doing, but why is he doing this as well? and like there's a lot of rogues like that. Like I swear every skirmish is half rogues. It's just we're everywhere. We're everywhere, but we're really, really fun to play. So, but yeah, I don't necessarily think you would want to touch any nerfing such, especially not when you're just nerfing based on representation and not really the actual ability of the class.
Overall, I think the post is good. I think that the points he brings up are very valid, and I think that I feel like everything he said is like, this is definitely somebody that I share like a like-mindedness with, because I think that the honor system, the arena system, things need to be updated for the current times, but I don't know about the rogue stuff. That's the one where I'm like, let them have this, or else people were going to delete rogues.
That's the thing. If you take away PvP from the rogues, then what do rogues have left? Like right now, like we already so unwanted in PvE, and it's like, oh man, if you took away PvP, I think then that would actually cause a very noticeable decline in people that actually want to play the game. Like all the rogues would be like, well, why am I even playing now? Yeah, like someone in chat says, we're fine. And I like that you use the word fine in PvE, but because we're not BIS, we're not wanted, basically.
Well,
and because like
you'll bring like one rogue. It's just the number of rogue spots is very, very low.
But yeah, so that was that. I actually agree. Yeah, I actually agree with a lot of his points. I think things need to be updated. Things really need to be updated. At least the honor system. They did say though. Blizzard did have a post where they said that they're going to continue doing testing. So on the BG stuff. So there's hope that it's coming back. But the fact that they haven't brought it back yet is kind of worrying. I don't know what if they're waiting to do something or what's going to happen, because I really want to get some PvP in, and like I can't. There's literally no PvP outside of the arena games that I can do. But yes, speaking of which, that's kind of linked to the rest of this stuff with the whole Blizzard insider linked insider leaks and such. So it's a really long thing, so I'm not gonna read this for you guys, but I did summarize the main points and take a few things out of it. Basically, what happened was, for people who haven't seen this leak, is that this popped up on, I believe it was 4chan. This leak popped up on 4chan. Mm-hmm. And it's supposedly or allegedly a Blizzard employee who's disgruntled, and this is his notes on what's happening inside of Blizzard. and it doesn't paint a very good picture. It paints a lot of things not going right within the company. Starting off with like a giant drop off in subs, but I kind of feel we already knew there was a giant drop off in subs, or subs were declining. It's even if you're just playing the game, you can notice that, you know, if the sub numbers are declining. He talks about issues with the changing in the storyline, like the Sylvanas storyline, issues with like the lore, and changes that they don't agree with internally necessarily. The whole Final Fantasy stuff coming out of nowhere, which is a whole topic in itself that we'll have to talk about in a bit as well. Beyond what we talked about last week, because things are changing week to week with this whole Final Fantasy stuff. With Final Fantasy coming out of nowhere, just scaring Blizzard into, because like for the longest time, Blizzard was invincible basically in WoW. Like nothing ever touched it, and then out of nowhere we have Final Fantasy now. He's talking about how the company inside is transitioning potentially to mobile and tablet gaming because it's like a giant moneymaker, and the fact that the player sentiment has changed. People are definitely regarding WoW differently from like before they were invincible, and now it's like I was talking to chat actually before all of this. How it's interesting because people are always super willing to forgive something they are a fan of. Like if a company makes a mistake, a creator makes a mistake, as long as they apologize and put their best foot forward and say, look, I messed up. This is what I'm doing to fix it. It's actually a psychological phenomenon where people are very willing to forgive as long as the person gives them a chance and says like, oh yeah, I'm sorry this happened. I'm trying to fix it. But it feels like Blizzard just has messed up one too many times and just hasn't like taken the steps, that a lot of the sentiment has almost changed from, yeah, this can be improved to, well, this is screwed. We're just screwed. This is doomed. And it's like the players aren't really as forgiving right now, or wanting to forgive.
I've talked about this before, where it's like having worked at Riot Games, player trust is a currency, right? The more you tax player trust, the less they're willing to forgive you. And the more times you make mistakes, the more player trust it costs before you lose them. So if you make too many mistakes, if you aren't visible or communicative with your community, then they lose trust in you, right? And you gain trust when you do things that are going to, you know, make them feel good, make them feel connected, all those types of things. So Blizzard is running out of that currency. Right? The player trust, they don't have it anymore. And you know, like I said with Classic WoW, when they had been making changes constantly, that like for TBC launch and stuff like that, and they had been updating things, they were gaining some of my trust back slowly because they were making good changes. Which, by the way, you remember how bugged TBC beta was, and we were saying it wasn't ready and everything. You know, they started making. There's been a lot of hot fixes, like a lot of hot fixes. I do have to give them some credit because like the hot fixes they've been doing, the hunter stuff, they've hot fixed like different instance bosses and things like that to like work better. So they have been making a decent amount of hot fixes. There are still bugs everywhere, but the hot fixes that I see constantly, I'm just like, okay, you know, because I'll do a boss one day, like even like Shattered Halls, right? Like you could stack on the last boss and he wouldn't do anything, and then we stack on him like next day, and now he just whirlwinds everywhere and like slaughters us. And we're like, wait a second, what the fuck? Like, did somebody stand out? And it's like, no, they hot fixed him. So there's a lot of hot fixes that have been going out. So I think that they are doing stuff that they don't really talk about much. And that's the thing, is finding the hot fixes is a little hard, which I don't think is a good thing. So yeah. In regards to this post though, I don't know. So I'll ask you first. Where do you land on real or fake?
Yeah, see, that was the thing I was debating with chat earlier before, because at first I saw this post and I was like, this reads like a Redditor's wet dream. Like if they wanted to write something that confirmed everything they thought about Blizzard, this would be the post, because this is everything that like you would think is bad and wrong and going wrong behind the scenes. And I saw people dismissing it because I told this to you yesterday. I said, like, people dismissed it because of some of the language used. They thought like, oh, like the game devs don't talk like this and such. But then I thought about it more and I was thinking, wait, but as a WoW streamer, and I know for a fact, like half my audience, it has me on their second screen usually, and they're like either game devs or computer dev people usually. Like a lot of them are. They talk like this all the time. I don't know why people are saying game devs don't talk like this. Game devs absolutely talk like this.
I was actually going to say I think it's 100% real because of the language. A lot of people go, "Oh, this can't be real," like because of the language. People say this. I think that's probably the biggest thing I've seen where people are like, "No, it's fake because of the language," and I'm like, "No, this is 100% real because of the language." The thing that like stood out to me the most is when he says the whole Twitter thing where there was like bad publicity on Twitter and the company email went around saying to disengage. I've gotten that email at a game company before, and I find it hard to believe that somebody on the outside knows the language you use of disengage on social media if you don't work a government job or work in gaming. This person works in gaming or is very close to people who work in gaming. They're one of the two, because that type of language there is very specific to somebody who's experienced that before. That or they're like they're in the know, because when you're told from comms team, like a comms team, to disengage from social media, to not engage if you are not a developer, or if you're not, relations or whatever, right? That is a very specific. I've gotten that email many times, right? Like just in general, whenever there's like an issue in the public about a game. So this person, in my opinion, works in gaming or is very close to somebody who works in gaming. That for me is like the dead giveaway there, because of the language and the things that they are quote unquoting here is very big, to me at least. So it's interesting.
Yeah.
Somebody saying it's the Final Fantasy 14 marketing team. I'm telling you, shit, the bus you just fucking leveled it. It's not real or fake. It's the Final Fantasy 14 marketing team.
That was a conspiracy
It's the
theory.
Japanese sabotage. That's what the problem.
Someone in chat was saying that earlier, and I was thinking like, man, if that actually was like this complete conspiracy theory, but if this was actually the Final Fantasy marketing team behind this leak, that guy deserves a raise, because this would be amazing sabotage. This would be like this would be equal to like Valve when they thought about adding hats to Team Fortress 2, because this would be amazing S tier marketing if they were behind
God,
this.
dude, like the thing too is like when the person is saying, calling him based or telling it like it is, like these are things that people fucking say. Like, how people were like, oh, there's people don't talk like this in games or game devs. And I'm like, no, 100% people do. And there's a reason that, even Riot Games had like a lawsuit of like, sexism. Because even the stuff that people say is, fucking like people say like gamer words. I'll tell you guys straight up that my boss used the word retard multiple times. It made me really uncomfortable because I hate that word. But like use that word and I'm just like, okay, shit. Like what? Good Lord. But people talk like that in gaming. They're like, game devs are literally you, but they know more about games, right? That's it. And gaming has not reached a professionalism level internally to a point where it's like other companies, right? There are things that happen at game companies where your boss will do or say something, and you're just like, if I worked at a bank and my boss did that or said that, this would be a completely different fucking issue. Like HR, we'd be talking to HR right now. That type of thing. Like, and it's like cool because it's like a gaming company. And you're like, okay, interesting. Yeah, it's a different environment. But yeah, I think discounting this because of the language, I think is actually the people think too highly of game devs. They're literally just people. They're gamers that have a job in gaming.
Well, the thing is, even whether it's real, whether this is real or fake as well, it hits all the points that, even if it's fake, it hits on a lot of points where people would be like, if we want to use Twitch terms, they'd be like, true. Like, the the fact that it doesn't matter whether it's real or fake. This is hits on all the points that are problems. Like all of these things that I mentioned are problems. That's why it's so believable and doesn't even debate whether it's real or fake. Is that all of these points are things that you don't need to make up because these are actual pain points and issues that people have with Blizzard or that Blizzard might really do have behind the scenes right now.
Yeah, and here's the problem if you're Blizzard is you can't say anything about this unless it's real. Because how do you find it out that it's fake? You find out that somebody else posted it. How are you going to find that some random person on the internet posted this, right? You have to find the only thing that you have is you have to find a way to confirm that it was somebody else in the entire world, or find a way to say that it was not any of your employees at all, and you can confirm that. But if you can't confirm that it was not any of your employees, you can't say anything. Yeah. But if you can confirm it's one of your employees, so you can only ever confirm that it's real, unless somebody comes out and says it was me, right? And they confirm. So Blizzard can't take any action here and like come out and say anything against this and be like, this is completely fake, this isn't true, because this could be somebody's perspective within the company who posted on like 4chan on a different computer or VPN or whatever, and you'll never be able to find out, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, you cannot find out that this is somebody within your company unless they royally screwed up, right?
I mean the interesting thing as well is that the reply from Mark Kern, I linked this to you yesterday as well, is that whether it's real or fake, he agrees with like pretty much all the points. He says like, yeah, this is how it is. Like there's a big thread on Twitter from Mark Kern, who was a former, was he team lead for WoW?
He did a lot of Blizzard games. Yeah. A lot of Blizzard games. Yeah. If you click Chrono, yes, I made Blizzard games. Yes, I still make games. Team lead for original WoW, producer on StarCraft, Diablo 2, and more.
Yeah. So he worked
on some of the best Blizzard games. Right. Yeah. This is like almost head honcho of the good days. Right.
Yeah. So he basically comes down and he just says that this is exactly his experience in AAA game development companies. This is exactly like. Everything sounds believable to him. Like nothing sounds fake about it. This is how it was within the company, which brings about a whole nother thing. Because one of the things was also how they the post did confirm they hate Asmongold. So whether it's fake or not, the Asmongold effect in all of this while this is happening has been really fascinating to watch. Just the effect Asmongold has had on like amping up this entire thing. Because if Asmongold's entire Final Fantasy thing wasn't happening at the same time as this, it wouldn't. I don't think this would be as big of a thing. But because this happened while Final Fantasy is doing its thing to WoW right now, it's made it a much bigger deal. Because I actually had to look at the trend data. I pulled up the trend data. So this Google Trends, you can see how like what the interest is at a certain point in time. And you can literally see the point when Asmongold started streaming WoW. And this is the China information, and I have it in the US as well. It's noticeable. As soon as Asmongold started streaming Final Fantasy, he swapped over. You can see Final Fantasy is just always kind of competing with WoW, but never quite really making a breakaway. And then Asmongold starts on July 3rd. And suddenly Final Fantasy now is bigger than WoW. And the funny thing is, this all started from the Final Fantasy thing started originally when people were cherry picking data from Final Fantasy saying, oh, Final Fantasy is actually bigger than WoW already, guys. And then I actually had to look into that data, and it was very just really weirdly cherry picked data to try to make Final Fantasy seem bigger when WoW was actually bigger. But now it feels like it's like become like a weird self-fulfilling thing where people thought that Final Fantasy was bigger, and that caused people to try Final Fantasy, and it has actually made Final Fantasy bigger than WoW now. Mm-hmm. And all the trend data seems to suggest that Final Fantasy is huge right now. It goes back to what we were saying where Blizzard it feels like Blizzard has given WoW players every chance to want to try a different game than stick around with WoW. It feels like they've just lost so much trust where people are like, okay, I'll try Final Fantasy. I'll try this other thing that like Asmongold's playing because they've just lost so much trust there with the play. And you know the funniest thing is I don't even think it's the stuff like the boost because those changes like the boost and things that people were really outraged about. Most people I talk to now, they're like, yeah, I was the boost isn't that big of a deal. It's like it outraged me, but it wasn't what made me swap to Final Fantasy or what makes me want to swap to Final Fantasy. It's all the other things where Blizzard just didn't communicate with the audience or just made changes that make no sense and felt disrespectful to the player base. Things like that. Like even right now, the ongoing issue with like the honor system is just where the players feel like they're not being heard or not being catered to, or they just feel like Blizzard doesn't care. I think it just comes down to like a lot of players feel like Blizzard doesn't care, and that's why they want to try a different game.
Yeah, it's interesting because Final Fantasy 14, having played it, back in the day at least, the thing that made me leave it was there wasn't much PvP. Right, like people are talking about BGQs and arenas and stuff like that, and leaving, and I'm just like, Final Fantasy 14 is a different game, right? They don't have the faction issue that WoW will have, where it's like too many Horde or too many Alliance on a server. It's like everybody's just under the same flag, right? It's purely like PvE game, and that's what you play it for. And I don't think they have any intent of changing that. I played Final Fantasy 11 for a very long time, and the PvP in that was like 5-man versus 5-man or 6-man versus 6-man. And you go out into a field and you fucking like fight each other, and it's just like turn-based combat basically, which it took a long time. Final Fantasy 11 fucking fights took a long ass time because you had healers and DPS and a tank and shit, and you're just like, okay, this is weird. So yeah, it was if you're going there for PvP, I don't know, but if you're going there for like cosmetic shit, you're gonna have a good time. Now, there's one thing that I actually was interested in, and it was I'm actually interested in the demographic in terms of gender or sex, right? I think more women are interested in Final Fantasy 14 than WoW by a good margin. Because I have a lot of female friends that love Final Fantasy 14 and play it all the time. And I'm like, Is it the bunny guys? What is it?
It's the bunny guys. Like, it must be the bunny guys.
Like what is it? But I have a lot of friends who actually like, and even like girls who are normies who like play Final Fantasy 14, and I'm like, okay, like so I'm actually interested in the data of like what the breakdown is demographic wise.
Someone in chat is saying you play Final Fantasy while you sit in a PvP queue.
that's the big brain, dude. That's the big brain. Whew. Yeah, but that was the thing is I don't think WoW appeals to as big of a market as Final Fantasy 14 does if they play their cards right, like at least right now. I think Final Fantasy 14 has a lot of just options that people enjoy, even just cosmetically, right? People like the cosmetic options that they have. The housing system is apparently some gigantic fucking thing that my friend literally re-ups their sub to Final Fantasy 14 just for their house. And I have no idea what it's about. Like, I have no clue, but they just keep re-upping their sub just for their house. And I have no idea. But apparently the system's all like, I don't know, there's like a progression system or some shit for your house where you have to like buy plots of land in like different parts of town or something, and people are like spam trying to buy it.
So you said you played Final Fantasy 14, right?
Yes. I played it when Realm Reborn came out, and I got a paladin to max level and tanked.
So is it true? I've heard this said, but I haven't played Final Fantasy 14 myself. Is it true that Final Fantasy 14 has a lot of elements, or people from WoW go over to it and they don't feel like they have the same annoying chores or annoying tasks to do like that they have in WoW? I don't know if that's propaganda or what, but someone told me that they feel like when they play Final Fantasy, they're not being forced to do unfun stuff as much as they are when they play WoW.
Yeah, I would say that's pretty accurate. I would say there aren't a lot of like side tiny things. Like, for example, I have a boosted paladin that's 70. I have 0 first aid. I have 0 mining. I have all that. I don't remember having to do anything like that with like like that was annoying to the level that it is in WoW, right? Like you still have to do it, but I don't think it was as annoying. Yeah, I don't remember it being as annoying in that game. And then there's tiny things like fucking slot enchants, the little systems. You want to talk about fucking conduits for a second, or covenants, you know? Yeah, no, I don't remember anything like that being a big annoyance or nuisance to me. I think my big gripe with it was that there wasn't any PvP, and that once I had PvE'd, it was like, I don't know, everything felt. Maybe this is just like me, and it's one of the things I don't like about retail WoW is everything you do is really flashy. Like literally everything you do is really flashy. I kind of like, you know, how rogues, you use Sinister Strike and it's literally just like another swing, right? I like that type of thing where it's like very simple. There's simplicity in it, like kidney shot, stuff like that. It's got a sound effect. It's like identifiable. Final Fantasy 14, it's like your fucking first attack is like fast blade or something, or a flat blade or something, and it's like like you're like, what the fuck? Like that's like a basic ability. And then by the end of the game, you're like fucking jumping in the air, slamming your sword in the ground, circle appears, swords fly up. You're like, like I'm like, what the? And like literally everybody in the party is doing this. So it's like,
okay, you sold me, Zachary. You sold me. Where do I join Final Fantasy?
Like I was like, I don't like that because it's just so much visual noise. I can't tell what's going on exactly at all moments. It's insane. Like if you go watch like any Final Fantasy 14 fight, like right now, it's so hard to tell what's going on, even as a player. Like in terms of like what other players are doing, you know what you're doing, and you know what the boss is doing, right? The indicators on the ground, etc. But I was just like, there's so much shit going on. Like I just don't like that, and it's the same problem I have with retail WoW, where it's like fucking. People are like using like. There's like shit on the ground. A shaman's like using something that puts like a circle on the ground. There's another circle on the ground. You don't know if that's good or bad. And then there's like a shadow priest who's making clones of themselves on the side that are floating at the boss. And you're just like, there's like a bunch of shit going on. And I'm like, what happened to this fucking like mind flay just being a beam? You know, like what happened to that?
I mean, I will say
they kept up and up in terms of visual noise, and I just don't like that.
Like what I WoW does do right though is that I feel like the core of WoW as the game itself is really, really strong. Like what's always made WoW really good is that it's a very polished core. Like the core gameplay elements and the core of WoW as a game is really, really good. It's just that somewhere along the lines they added a lot of stuff that wasn't very good or that didn't feel fun. Mm-hmm. Like at some point, WoW, like I know a lot of people usually feel this with a lot of MMOs, but WoW in particular, you hit a point in WoW, and that's why I quit originally, where WoW started feeling like a chore. Like it felt like you would like log in, you play, and then it's like, okay, gotta get my chores done. You need to get my chores done.
Do your dailies. Can't miss your dailies.
But I have a question though. Do you think WoW is actually like on the dying though? Like, do you think like that could happen?
Yeah, I think for sure. I think retail for sure. I think classic. You know, players will stick around because we know what we're getting in terms of the game. But I think retail, after the last cinematic and the blue balls with Sylvanas, I think people like literally Sylvanas is like the villain for the last like 2 years, 2.5 years. People are just like, I don't know. Like a lot of Horde don't like her, and a lot of Alliance don't like her. She fucking burned down Teldrassil. There's not a lot of like context around the shit that she was doing. You have to like dig for that, and then they try to make her a redeemable character, and people are just like, "Come on, where's the fucking, yeah, where's the fucking comeuppance there?" So yeah, in terms of story and connection, stuff like that, that's going to affect people too. Not saying everybody, obviously, but there's people who are just like, "Oh, come on," like, yeah. Like I said originally, with like why I didn't really care about retail WoW was the threads that connected me to Warcraft 3 are all in classic TBC and Wrath of the Lich King with Arthas and stuff like that, as well as Illidan and, you know, Kael'thas, Vaj, stuff like that. And Sylvanas is like the last real thread aside from like Jaina, etc. So in BFA, you've already fought Jaina, and in now you get to fight Sylvanas, and there's no real thing that comes out of that. And for me, I'm just like, I don't care about fucking Thanos. I mean, the jailer. I don't really care. He's got the Infinity Stones now, and he's just gonna go do whatever. And now you have to wait 9 months for another thing. So I think the 9-month content drought plus what we got content wise, then story wise, it really was not a payoff for a lot of players. And I think they might play another game in the meantime. So, yep.
Yeah, I mean, the interesting thing is you said Classic was the thing that could keep WoW going, but like it's funny because we know
they need
Classic.
To do something release wise.
Yeah, we know that Classic has that end date where it's going to get that big decline once we hit somewhere around that RAF timeline, and people are done. Well, we're done with Classic. We did Classic now. Because people do need that break. When they play like the classic games, they need that break before they can ever do it again. So even if they bring back fresh servers, not everyone's going to hop back and be like, yeah, I'm ready to do classic from the start again. You need that break before they forget about all the bad stuff. And
I kind of want to log into a classic server right now and just see who's on. How many? Do you think there's somebody doing Nax right now in the classic server?
Like one person? I'm not even sure if they have enough people to raid on the classic servers. But I mean, the most interesting thing is the end date on Classic. And if we want to talk about how the content creators are the ones that kind of do a lot of the marketing for all of these things. I mean, Asmongold, you can see even on this trend graph that from the day he started doing this and started this whole trend, he's responsible for a lot of this entire trend happening. And a lot of creators, I feel like...
I hate that shit, dude. Like, I hate when companies don't actually invest in their content creators because this is the shit that happens. Maybe you don't notice their impact, but maybe you don't notice the impact they've been having on your game, and it's free marketing for you because you've never had to pay them. But as soon as they start playing something else, that's the big thing. Like, that's always the thing that always fucks with companies, is because it's like, well, Snow, why would you get sponsored by, Hydro Flask when you already, market for them for free? They're like, what are you gonna do? Use a different fucking cup? It's like, what are you gonna do? You already love our cup. You're just gonna use it for free. And then eventually you go, no, fuck you guys. I'm gonna use this other thermos. And then they're like, and then you actually help that thermos company out more. It's shit like that, where if you actually just swap and you betray your like of a product because you don't like how you're being treated, then that actually can create an impact, right? It's like, even if they don't notice the impact you're having right now and you're doing shit for free, they should know that you could very much well help somebody else, and to take you for granted is exactly what's going to fucking make you leave. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, on top of that as well, the fact that Classic has that end date, and a lot of content creators, like I mentioned this in the past on the podcast, is that there's a lot of content creators in the WoW space who came over from retail as well, who are very disgruntled with being a WoW content creator. They would love to jump on another game and be content creators there. It's just that they don't have the opportunity because they might not get the views, and they may be making their living. But as someone who's always been very goal focused and forward thinking when I try to do my content and such, I've already been thinking okay, what do I do in 3 years time? The timeline for when WoW ends and Classic kind of sees that decline, and then I gotta replace the income I'm getting from Classic with something else. What do I do on the YouTube channel and such? I'm already making those plans, and I'm sure I'm not the only one who's a Classic content creator who's thinking okay, well, I'm probably gonna see a big decline at that point. Do I swap games? Do I do something else on YouTube? And it's worrying because when I think about, okay, what would keep me playing WoW, and I don't see what would keep me around necessarily at that point if WoW sees that decline and I've hit that end game point in Wrath of the Lich King or something. So WoW could literally see the Final Fantasy hit, and then at some point we're going to hit Wrath and they're going to get hit by that. Then they're also going to get hit by the Riot Games MMO if it comes out as well. I could really see a point where all the aces that WoW has is just one by one getting shot down until it's like, what do they have going for them at that point?
You got to do something new.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they were talking about mobile development, right?
Yeah.
As soon as the company starts going into mobile development, I see you as a fucking sellout, dude. They're like, oh, we want to make great mobile games. I'm like, no, you want fucking China money. So yeah, my trust at that point, I'm just like, that sounds like a Activision move. And I think I've said this before, where like there was a Star Wars mobile game that I know somebody who worked at EA told me that every meeting they have around revenue revolved around that Star Wars game that's mobile that has microtransactions. And it was basically what they said: this is the best thing that we've ever done. Everything should be like this, because it made them the most money. And they were like, this thing takes very little for us to work on, to develop, etc. Like the amount of return it has, the ROI is amazing for them. And mobile games, it's like you aren't making that game for the players. You're making that game so they spend $10 to re-up their fucking stamina. So no, fuck you. So that's the type of thing that I'm like, mobile games always make me kind of not like it so much. But then again, back in the day, free-to-play games always made me feel the same way. And, League of Legends changed that. And that was like the whole move that they had made. So there's stuff where there's potential in the mobile game space, but people just don't like the game on their phone in the US and in Europe. And it's more of an Asian market. So it's I just don't know what they're going to do to like save themselves at this point, because they've used their core pillars of like Diablo, StarCraft, and World of Warcraft, or Diablo, StarCraft, and Warcraft, right, are like slowly dying, and they need to come up with something new. And I feel like Riot Games is in a position now to just become a behemoth of gaming, because it's a company that is no longer just Riot Game with just League of Legends, right?
Yeah.
They've started to move towards, Valorant, right? They've made a shooter. And yeah, somebody mentioned Overwatch. Yeah, Overwatch is, I didn't even think of it because it just wasn't as impactful, and it started to die. So in Overwatch 2 is like, I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't understand. What's the deal with Overwatch 2? Why are they making the same game again? I just don't understand that concept at all.
I don't know. That's the thing. Is like, I have no idea. So yeah, but when it comes to something like this, video games nowadays are in a really weird spot, because back in the day, I actually was talking about this the other day. Back in the day, when I would sit down and play video games when I was a kid, I guess I'll say it this way: game companies are facing new problems that have never been problems before in the past, and they have to find new solutions. Back in the day, I would sit down, pop in Legend of Zelda, play it for an hour, pop it out, play Star Fox, pop it out, fucking ride a jet ski with a dolphin. Like, I don't remember the name of the game.
What? Wait, was that Nintendo 64 like Wakes?
Yeah.
I had that game. I remember, Wave Runner. I remember that. Yeah, the dolphin. Yeah.
Like, I used to just play games for like an hour each, and I would swap games all the time. Now people have like a main game, and game companies are trying to make their game your main game. And the problem nowadays of getting new games in there to become your main game is you're competing against fucking games that have a decade of patches, of quality of life changes, of buffs, of nerfs, things that have been refined. And it's so hard to break that down and become the new main game for somebody. But the companies that can do that are things like Riot Games that have so much fucking money from their successful behemoth of a game. And what I mean by this is, if you create a new MMORPG, you have to spend so much money before you have any income from any other place, with angel investors giving you millions of dollars, hoping that you can make something. And you release a product that, like, I was watching like Ashes of Creation, which I know is in a very like alpha phase. and they have like no mobs don't evade. So if you pull things from the top of a rock, you can AoE down like hundreds of mobs, right? There's nothing that teleports you to them, or so you can just like glitch mobs and shit. Those are like quality of life things that, you know, people have exploited WoW for so long that they've introduced a bunch of quality of life stuff that like, oh, things evade bug, things do X, Y, or Z. I understand Ashes is not finished, obviously, but what I'm saying is games don't get the time from players anymore to make those changes when they release, that players will quit the game before it's completely polished. It's why I stopped playing Final Fantasy 14, is because I got the end game content, did the end game content, and I was like, okay, there's nothing left for me to do, right? There's nothing left for me to do. There's bugs in the game. Your patience will wear out and you'll just go back to what you were playing before because, hey, it's still been worked on and it's getting patches and it might be getting expansions. And people are trying to find, people have a core game now. And the companies that have those core games, like Riot Games, that have that decade-old game that's been worked on and had quality of life changes for so long that it's refined and polished, now what they get to do is they get to spend that money on working on another game, but polishing it in private, right? Where they get to make sure that it is a product that is, they don't need extra income from you, right? They don't need money. They're getting it from somewhere else. So it's so hard for new game companies to come along and dethrone these guys with a game that becomes your main game. It has to be such a fucking good product that it beats out a decade plus of patches and shit like that, right? So at this point, companies have to royally fuck up their own game for another game to come along to dethrone them. Or the companies that are at the top spend all that money, invest in it, and become a new genre-defining game. And that's why I think like the Riot Games stuff right now is really scary for Blizzard, because that MMO could be really fucking good. They've hired like, and they've had enough money that they aren't some indie studio. They've hired literally Marvel writers to write lore for their MMORPG, right? They have so much fucking money that they can do these things to try and make a good enough product that will give them money in the future. So they have that luxury and other gaming companies don't. And that's the thing that I think is so different now is Riot Games is one of the first companies that's really finding that solution to the modern problem of people want to play a main game. People identify as a game player in their fucking Twitter bio. It is literally 3/4, if not all of their personality. Challenger, ADC, EU West, 19 years old. Like, it is their personality. It's who they are, right? And then like all the e-girls in their bio. But like, it's literally like who they are, right? People identify as part of the game, or they identify as somebody who is good at the game or plays the main game. Are you a World of Warcraft raider? Are you a guild leader? Are you a rogue player, right? People identify, even personally, as part of it because it means something to them. And if it means something to you, it has meaning, right? Regardless of what other people think, just like as a side thing. So it has value to you, and that's what game companies want to bring, is something that makes players feel like they can identify with that game and that game is valuable to them. And that's how you make money as a game company. And I think it's a new thing where companies have to find this new solution. You can't just make a game that people pop in for an hour, pay $60 for at GameStop, and then, you know, you got your money, right? And then you can go make Tomb Raider 2. So, and now there's new problems that have never been tackled before because this shit hasn't happened in the past, right? It's a new era. And I think that's something that people don't consider. So sorry for the rant,
No,
but
hey, we promised rants at the start of the podcast. We got them.
Yeah. So yeah, I just think that these are problems that have never been solved before, and game companies are trying to figure out what to do. And Blizzard isn't playing their hand well, and it's potential for another company to actually play better than them and knock them out of the space. So,
do you think Blizzard can do anything to? What do you think they can do at this point? Because like it's even like just 1 week has changed so much. Like before, I was like, this Final Fantasy thing, it's interesting, but I don't think it's really necessarily going to knock Blizzard off that throne. But in 1 week, so much has happened, and with this coming out, and then with like the trends completely shifting in the favor of Final Fantasy now as well. What do you think Blizzard can actually do at this point?
If I had the solution, I'd work at a game company. No. No. Honestly, I honestly don't know. They have to do something spectacular, and they have to do something different. They can't keep doing what they're doing, right? I think the line that was really good in the leak was that players always come back, but they're not coming back anymore, not in the numbers they used to. That line is really good because I feel like it's very accurate, right? It's right there at the bottom. They will keep coming back. Yeah. Yeah. And they'll keep coming back, but they aren't coming back anymore, not in the numbers they used to. That right there, I think, is like obviously stating a decline, and they have to do something new. They can't keep doing what they're doing. They have to be more visible with players. They have to and that's part of the sentiment too that this person says is they are no. Oh wait, who says it? No, it's the guy who tweeted. It's the guy who tweeted.
Oh,
he
Mark
said
Cannon?
that back in the day, they used to make games at Blizzard that they wanted to play. Right, you make the game that you want to play as a developer. Now, because there's like fancy paychecks and 9-to-5ers who don't make passion projects, they make money-making projects, right? To keep their job, etc., and to do a good job. The focus is now on monetization and like not passion projects. So people aren't making the games they want to play. They're making the games that people in the company want to like want metrics for and see do well, right? So they're not making the games they want to play. They're making the games that they want players to play, which I think is a really big thing. And this is actually part of, I know I touch on like my Riot Games like background a lot, but there was a saying back in the very, very, very old Riot office, like when it was really tiny. We're talking like when it was just like literally 20 to 30 people. And it was people would play League of Legends and then they would log off and they'd go play Dota or they'd go play a different game. And I remember there's a story of I don't remember who it was. One of the guys would walk around the office and be like, why does everybody like after the beta test, they don't log back into our game and play? And they made it a rule in the office where you can't play any other games until like you want to play our game kind of thing. And it was called eat your own dog food. So whatever you're making for the players, you have to play. You have to experience what you're making for the players, because if you don't want to play your game, how the fuck do you expect the players to want to play it? Right? Yeah. If you aren't getting off of work and wanting to play your game, how the fuck do you expect them to want to play it? So I don't know if Blizzard is doing that. I don't know if Blizzard's eating their own dog food. I don't know. And if they are, they need different tasters. These are not people that are having a good connection to the community or what players want and have a good intuition on what players I want to play. So that's the thing that I think is really affecting them, is they don't have a good idea of the player experience with their games right now. And that's why their game is dying, I guess, with WoW.
Yeah. I mean, someone in chat said that like even just back to basics, I feel like that is correct. They almost need to just throw out the thought of monetization and all that stuff, and they just need to earn back the trust, or at least make the players believe in the game again. like hire some GMs, have actual interaction with people again, because they can afford it. They just don't want to because they'll cut into their profit margins a little bit. But I feel like they need to do something to at least have the faith renewed in the player base, so that the player base actually believes in the game again. Because right now it feels like we're all playing WoW because we love WoW, we like WoW, but there's so many glaring issues that we know that it's almost like we play WoW, but we know that the end game for WoW is somewhere there, like the end point is there, and there's nothing we can do about it, and it's gonna fail eventually. And I feel like that's not like the sentiment you want in a successful game. You should be hoping that it goes on forever and that and really looking forward to that future. But meanwhile, WoW Classic players are like, oh well, no, that's the end of the game, and retail players are already losing faith. That there's just no hope. I feel like there's no hope in the players. The players they're just given up. They just don't believe in Blizzard anymore.
That's the thing, is I think it's back to basics might be the move, but whatever made them. And here's the thing too, is like whatever made Blizzard big may not work again, right? Because like I said, times change, right? You have to keep making new shit. You can't just keep doing the old stuff. And you have to find solutions to new problems. And
I mean, it'd be interesting to see them do like a content creator approach. Because did you see that thing that's kind of linked to this a little bit, but not really at the same time? Someone made a Twitch clip website that autoplays clips like TikTok, and I thought that was one of the most genius things I've ever seen.
What?
So someone made a website, because for people that know how Twitch works and how the discovery system works, they know that if you're a Twitch streamer on Twitch, you basically don't get discovered unless you're right at the top of the page. Twitch is horrible for being discovered as a content creator. That's why we all have YouTube channels and such. But someone made a website where it would find the Twitch clips that you liked or that are similar to each other, and it would just autoplay them. So almost like you go on TikTok and you open and you watch one clip after another. It did the same thing for Twitch clips. And I thought that was really smart, because that would actually get people watching Twitch clips, which are some of the best content on Twitch. Is like all the little highlight moments from all the different streams. And I was wondering, man, could Blizzard do something like this in some form, or like other companies could do this in some form to kind of start from the ground up and start from the content creator side of things, because content creation is like all the marketing for games these days and such. So I kind of wonder if they could do something on that front. Like for me, I always thought it'd be interesting if a company, like, why are all the best content for WoW right now made by just third-party people? Like, it's like, why can't it be made also? Why can't Blizzard hire like some of these people, or is that lost if they get hired?
They don't even
Blizzard,
have a podcast. No, I'm just kidding.
yeah, you don't have $1 million paid podcast. $1 million paid podcast. It would be interesting if a company went like the full creator route, where they actually hired all the good people making content, all the people. Like, why am I making the rogue guides? Like, couldn't Blizzard be making really, really good rogue guides as well, having an internal team making these like top tier guides? Because people want the guides.
Yeah, but people already do that, like you, for free.
Yeah, exactly.
Somebody said the player base for Diablo 3 tried to communicate the issues with the game for years, year after year, as Blizzard just let the game die. Why should I believe WoW will be any different? You shouldn't, because Blizzard has shown that they don't communicate with their players in the same way. That, like, I mean, that's literally why Riot Games did so well at the start, is they communicated with their players. They made changes that their players wanted. You know, everything currently that's going on with, the game imbalance, aside, but they understand player pain, and it feels like Blizzard doesn't understand the player pain half the time. And the post from the insider leak, where it's a lot of people have their head in the sand, or they aren't paying attention, with the positivity dojo, that stuff, they definitely need to pay attention to their players, because they're leaving.
But yeah, I don't know where to go from this one.
Yep. Every time, Snow. Every time. Every time we end the podcast, it's just I don't think I've ended a podcast without sighing in like a month, dude. Yeah, it's just been like, yep.
No. Yeah, so what's happening in League of Legends? League of Legends, learning some Yasuo, getting some.
Oh no, dude. Oh, good lord. It's yeah.
Well, I mean, I hope Blizzard does something. I feel like they should do something. Maybe we'll see a response or something. Either that, or they just go full head in the sand and say, well, we had our run, we tried, and we're just gonna milk it now. I don't know which path they're gonna take, but I hope they do something.
How do you think Hearthstone's been doing for them?
Isn't Hearthstone actually really good again or something? I heard they added like battlegrounds or something, or I can't remember what they added. There's like where it's like a whole new thing.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. I think so.
I heard they did something. Although I heard it's very pay to win still. I heard it's very pay to win.
Might be good then. might have good metrics. But yeah, no, I don't know. Hearthstone is just one of those games where when they made it mobile, it seemed like, oh, maybe that's a good idea, and a lot of people will play it mobile because it felt like it was a game. Like, that's the thing too, where Hearthstone, like, you can tell right off the bat when it was made that it was made to be potentially mobile as well. So just like by design.
Yeah,
So
Hearthstone was one of the first like actually good mobile games that I enjoyed because when I was early on in the whole Hearthstone thing. Yeah, I remember downloading it on my phone and be like, oh, this is great. This is a great game to have on my phone when I'm just on the
Mhm.
train or whatever it is. This is really good. I had a lot of fun with Hearthstone back in the day. The interesting thing is that I don't think that Blizzard's even necessarily losing that much money right now. I'm sure they're down on subs, but like the leak says, I'm sure they're making a boatload on whales that buy cosmetic stuff in WoW at the same time.
I mean that's who you target is you target the whales.
Yeah, that's the tricky thing is that like maybe they don't even care. Maybe they're fine with like WoW slowly dying because they're still making boatloads off the whales. I actually remember distinctly remembering uh when all that monetized stuff started going in the first time around. I remember being in Hafu's stream, and this was when she had made the jump, I think, out of WoW, and she was just reminiscing, thinking like, I wonder how WoW is doing. And then, if I recall right, like she even like Googled it, and it was like, oh wait, no, they put all that monetized stuff in now. They're actually making more money, even though the player base went down. And it wouldn't surprise me if that's happening right now, and that they're just bleeding subs like crazy, but they're still making bank because of all this. And maybe they don't care. I don't know. I hope I'm wrong, but maybe they're actually just making bank still. But yeah. So any happy topics, Zareen? Any positive, good topics?
No.
No.
Oh, those were all at the start, man. You play the podcast in reverse. Go.
A little editing. We'll go back to Hunter Autos. Hunter Autos. You guys remember this?
Yeah, play the clip again.
Play the
that
clip
made me
again.
happy.
Look at this clip. Look at these happy hunters. Hunters attacking really, really fast. Look at how fast he's gonna be attacking.
It's great, dude.
But this clip is hilarious though. They're just like even not even looking at the numbers, just looking at the machine gun arrows coming out when he's doing this.
Dude, the thing that went through my head is I was like, Jesus Christ, dude. The hunters already like complained about how many arrows they have to bring sometimes.
Oh god, yeah. The best part is when you're having a bad Karazhan like run and the hunter's like, I gotta go. I brought like 5,000 arrows, but apparently 5,000 arrows wasn't enough. I need more.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Could you imagine how many they need if this stays the thing? If they didn't nerf it? Jesus Christ, they would be going through a lot of quivers.
Good lord, dude.
But yeah, guys, this was Prepared episode 19, your weekly Blizzard depression podcast, apparently.
Hey, we okay, yeah, you're right. I can't even defend it at this point.
We'll see you guys next week for new. I'm sure really great things. Blizzard that they're gonna fix everything. They're gonna be back ahead of Final Fantasy.
Yeah, what server in Final Fantasy are you rolling on?
They don't. Apparently, Final Fantasy is actually so popular that you cannot even make an account right now. I heard.
They're running out of digital copies. They don't have enough number generators.
But yeah, guys. So we'll see you guys next week. Hopefully, some more positive topics. Hopefully, I'm above 2K rating in Arena at last next week. If my partner can get back and we can get some games in, that'd be nice.
Yeah, if you're on YouTube, comment down below with the bug that you want fixed next week because we get it fixed here. Yeah,
it's true. It's true. All right, guys. See you guys next week.